old person answering the thing, because are you going to vote Rihanna? Like, probably not. Like that, so that may fly in the face of what I've just said about that. Lady Gaga, not surprisingly, was third at 11, actually tied with Jennifer Lopez. The number one neighbor people want as far as like a Super Bowl halftime performer would be Snoop. That's who people are looking to live next to. That makes sense to me too. I've said it before, Snoop kind of transcends the hip-hop thing. He's not a hip-hop guy. He's Snoop. He's a little bit of everything. He's your mother's favorite hip-hop guy. Like, he's just one of those people. The word influencer, we wipe our ass with that word now. Snoop is absolutely an influencer and has been throughout his career. I mean, without him, nobody was adding Z's to words where they didn't go. I mean, he kind of created all of that. That is absolutely influencing. Getting people to watch a 10-second video while they're taking a dump in their bathroom, I don't think is influencing at all. When you can make people change the way they speak, dress, act, and what they listen to, you are influencing them for sure. That's happening there, right? So I'm not surprised by Snoop at all. So football players. Who do NFL fans want to live next to? Your neighbor. This wasn't just about the Super Bowl here because, well, Jared Goff's in here, who did not make the Super Bowl. Mike Evans is in here with 1%. Both of them are right around there. Neither one of them are going to the Super Bowl. We'll take a look at this list here. There's no Cleveland Brown on the list. There isn't. Brock Purdy, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, at just 3%. I was expecting him to be a little higher. Welcome to the recency bias game, right? I would have expected his name to be a little higher on that list. Josh Allen with about 5%. I think Josh would probably be a fun neighbor. I don't know what makes me say this, but I'm guessing the barbecue at the Allens would be fun, right? Like, that just seems like, all right, let's go over to the Allens for the afternoon. Maybe we'll, I know it plays on Sunday, but the Sunday Fun Day could be a good afternoon there. Lamar Jackson came in pretty high, about 6%. That makes all the sense in the world to me. Patrick Mahomes, number two. He had 11% of the vote. That's the NFL player people would like as a neighbor. And you guessed it. You know who number one is. And this for sure is recency bias. It is Travis Kelce. Now, I get it. He and his brother, they are. I mean, dude, they have a halfway decent podcast. They're both all-time great players. They got, these decent personalities, all smiles, fun guys. I know a couple of people who knew them growing up, and they all say, dude, they've stayed pretty much the same. They're still in contact with them. Good. I've never had the pleasure, but I've heard nothing but good things about them as far as hanging out with them, knowing them a little bit. But this is the Taylor Swift effect right here. If Taylor's increased the rating of anything, it's Travis Kelce's popularity. That's what she's increased the rating of. And so I think that's how people are answering that. I think Jason Kelce's probably the more fun of the two brothers versus Travis. As a matter of fact, that's what most people say. He's the shirtless one, chugging beers, doing all. That would be the more fun neighbor. This is people looking to get a glimpse of Taylor, which I would want nothing to do with. I don't want the most famous person in the world living next to me. I don't want all that traffic. I don't want all the selfies in front of my house. I honestly think having that woman anywhere near my street would be nothing but a hassle.
To all the teachers who said he'd never amount to anything.
That is correct.
Lucky guess. The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
Valentine's Day right around the corner, and that holiday can get a little pricey. So I'll give you $1,000. I'll rock the bank with you at 9 a.m. Help you take care of that. That's when you get that first keyword. Also, take a look at what a Sigma male is. Try to figure that out at 9 o'clock. Ask one. Had been talking about which celebrity associated with Super Bowls would you want to live next to. This gets a little confusing because, Jared Goff's on this list at 2%. He's not going to the Super Bowl, right? And you know who else is on this list? 4% of the vote? Baker Mayfield. Baker. Which I got to be honest with you, I don't want Baker as a quarterback, but as a neighbor, I think he would be fun, right? I was talking about Josh Allen. I feel like the barbecue at Josh Allen's would be kind of fun. Baker Mayfield, I think, and his wife would throw a good party. I think there'd be fun people there. And I think that would be a good time. Baker being a neighbor, I don't think that would be a bad neighbor. Also, most people don't care about him. So you're not necessarily going to have the, oh my God, people camped out outside of the homes trying to get the look at him, right? Travis Kelce was the football player, came in number one that people said they wanted to live next to. This is recency bias for sure. It is. This is the Taylor Swift kiss that's happening there. she's giving him a bump in the popularity. I mean, he was a popular player before Taylor. There's no denying it. He's a damn good player. People were already calling him maybe the best tight end of all time. I think we sometimes leapfrog greats a little too often to talk about, whether or not you're the greatest of all time. I think Tony Gonzalez has got a pick there, or, at least a little bit of an argument there. There's a few other guys at that position. As a matter of fact, they were talking to Tom Brady about that. Pat McAfee did this one. And they were talking to Tom Brady as Patrick Mahomes is getting set to play in another Super Bowl, and he could walk away with his third ring. And I'm hoping he does. I bet the Chiefs to win. So I'm hoping that happens. And people are starting to say, look, if Pat gets his third now, it's over. He's the greatest of all time. And it was tough because people were reluctant. We forget this now, but people were reluctant to move off of Montana and tell Brady he was the GOAT. Like, they really were. People were reluctant to do that. And people kept saying things like this. Some of my own listeners were saying things like this to me when I was telling everybody, dude, Tom's the best. People would say to me, he's a system quarterback. And I was like, well, the guy you don't want him to pass, his name is Joe Montana, who played for a guy named Bill Walsh, whose system was called the West Coast Offense. I mean, literally, to pretend that anybody was just like digging up plays in the dirt, like, all right, go to the 10, turn around, give me a button hook right here. I mean, everybody's got a system. Those playbooks are hundreds of pages long, right? That was one of those things. It's like everybody's kind of a system quarterback. Everybody's kind of one of those. Now, the greats, when a play breaks down, can make a great play. Absolutely, and there's another element there. But they were talking to Brady about that, and he said, look, there's nothing Pat can do to take away from what I've done. And there's nothing I could do to take away from him. And he went on to say, he's like, look, I could never be Steve Young. I could never be Joe Montana. I could never be John Elway. Those are the guys I heard him list. Said, we're talking Brady here. Said, those are my childhood idols. I could never be those guys. Now, he's more accomplished than most of them. People still don't want to get Brady whether or not he's the best. Well, he's the most accomplished. I don't know if that means he's the best. It's like, well, man's got ice in his veins. You know what I mean? 7 chips. Very good. Very good. I mean, look at the Steelers. The Steelers fan base walks around like their crap don't stink because the franchise has 6. Tom's got 7. A player. You know what I mean? Like, it's bonkers, man. Like, that is bonkers. And I love Patrick Mahomes. And I think he's got a chance to go down as the best quarterback to play this sport. I do. I think you're almost crazy to think he doesn't. But putting him past Brady right now feels like a little fast. It feels a little disrespectful. Again, we made Brady wait forever. Forever. Nobody was willing to let that go. Montana's the GOAT. Montana's the GOAT. And then sure enough, more social media happened. Younger people started to get old enough to be on social media. They had never seen that throw to Dwight Clark. They never saw that. They don't know about that. They got no clue. And so now their guy, and that's kind of how it works. It's leading us back to that phrase I use all the time, where most people aren't remembered in their craft. They're just not. I mean, look at the way people are talking about Bill Belichick right now. They're talking about him like he can't coach a little. Like, that's craziness. Like, it's absolute crazy. Because his record without Brady, not as good. Yes, coaches need quarterbacks, and I think I said about Brady and Tom. Early, Tom needed Bill, and late, Bill needed Tom. That's kind of how it works, right? I think Patrick Mahomes has a claim to the throne for sure. And if he gets his third, I understand the conversations. But if you're Tom Brady and you're sitting around going, wait a minute, I have more rings than he's won above him. Meaning, he's still got 4 to go to reach me. He doesn't even have 4. He's only got the 3. And you're putting him past me? I like, that would annoy me, and Brady's too much of a professional, too much of a nice guy to ever give into that. But like, that would annoy me as a player, for sure it would. Now, the Chiefs v. the Patriots are the Chiefs. Do I think am I all right with everybody calling that a dynasty? Well, yeah. Reaching the AFC Championship game that many times with this, run with your coach and your GM and this quarterback and all of that, they're clearly a dynasty. But I'm not comfortable just yet putting Patrick Mahomes above Brady, even if he wins, this coming Super Bowl, which I do think he will win.
It's cool when you get up and you feel instantly connected to the world.
The Stansberry Show.
I don't know what it is. I got him on every morning.
On Rock 106.9.
330-450-7625 to send a text to the studio. The other day, we were talking about the library and how it's a form of socialism I don't hate. Because I do. I like the library. And I wouldn't have known this, but Kelly listens daily and sent this to me, that apparently this Saturday is Take Your Child to the Library Day. Probably a good thing to be thinking about doing. Probably never too early. Start thinking about kids reading and the like. I'm not going to lecture everybody about that. But, we were talking about the library a little bit. People bring up socialist country a lot. I'm like, well, some socialism's not so bad. I mean, roads are pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, I like the streets, and the library's not so bad, right? We were talking about that. Throughout the years, I have had a pretty progressive view on drug use in this country. I have done most of them out there, not all these days. It's not necessarily me being proud of it, but it's me being willing to admit it. I have, in my life, closed the chapter on most. Marijuana still absolutely considered to be a drug in this country, and I am a user of said product. I don't view that any differently than unwinding after work with 3 beers. I don't get the difference at all. People who drink a bottle of wine on Friday night, who look down their nose at people who smoke a joint, I just can't get it. I think it's about people wanting to pretend that they're superior, and we don't have to get sidetracked in that. But a couple of times throughout my career, I've said, I wonder what would happen if we just legalized drugs. And what made me ask the question is that we've seen other countries around the world do it with high levels of success. I believe Finland being one of them. I think Spain had also seen some success. And people were really worried about red light districts and that kind of stuff, and, people doing drugs in front of your kids. And, the argument's always been, well, dude, drug addicts don't want to be doing drugs in front of your kids either, right? Like, they don't necessarily want to be doing that either. And over the last couple of years, we've seen some major cities take a different approach to drug use and drug abuse in this country. And I was willing to take a look at some other ideas because what we've been doing hasn't been working. Just say no doesn't seem to work. I'm sorry, it just doesn't seem to work, right? So what will? Well, some states wanted to try some things. And a state I've told you before that I loved living in was Oregon. Now, I lived in Southern Oregon, which is very different than Portland. It's 2 completely different states. You know how states work. You get away from the major cities, it's like, oh, normal people, everything's okay, respect of one another, okay. You get to the cities, it's like, Jesus, dude, get me the hell out of this place. I don't want to be anywhere near you. But I got tagged in this a million times yesterday, and I understand why, because of some of the conversations I've been willing to have about drug use in this country. And those of you who listen a lot know I've lived in Oregon. So Portland now, again, that's about 4 hours from where I live, now declares a 90-day state of emergency in downtown Portland to address their fentanyl crisis. They joined forces, according to CNN, on a 90-day state of emergency in downtown Portland, and they're now going to funnel resources into fighting the city's deadly fentanyl crisis. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega, and Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler each made an emergency declaration to address the public health and public safety crisis in Portland's central city. They're worried about the overdoses, the deaths, and the fear driven by fentanyl. Now, fentanyl has changed the game in a lot of other drugs. It's starting to show up in a lot of cocaine. It's obviously what people were mixing heroin with to be able to, stretch their supply further, make more money and the like. And every police officer I know has warned me, like, dude, be careful out there, man. Fentanyl ain't no joke. And, like, if you get in contact with it, it's going to be a problem. Like, people can handle very little access to that. So Oregon voters back in 2020 passed Measure 110, which decriminalized some use of hard drugs. So it's a little bit different than legalization, right? They just decriminalized. If you're carrying, probably not going to charge you and fill the jails with you and that. That was kind of their thing. But fentanyl was on the list of the things that had been decriminalized because of how many people were using it. It's a synthetic version of heroin is a good way to look at it. It received criticism, and I remember talking about it here, and plenty of people were like, what in the hell are they doing? So here's the interesting thing. Overdoses from opiates actually did rise. From 280 in 2019 And there's no turning back from a number this high now. But after they pass the Measure 110 in 2020, their overdose deaths due to opiates in 2022 was 956. We went from 280 to 956. And I know what a lot of people are saying. Well, duh. When you decriminalize drugs, what did you think was going to happen? Well, a couple of different things. This would have been on the list of something I would have told you was going to be possible that could happen. Again, I was basing some of my viewpoints on some other places around the world that we've seen have some success. But I've said about other issues this country has, I feel like there are things Americans aren't as good at as some other places. We've had a weird view of sex in this country, a little repressed. We're not as good at that as some other places around the world. We've had a weird entry into alcohol for kids in this country. You go to a lot of other places where kids have wine at 13 with dinner. They don't abuse alcohol the way we do here. Some do, sure. There are alcoholics everywhere, obviously, because of the properties inside these, inside substances, right? We know that. So I was just thinking, okay, well, maybe America's going to be able to handle this. And again, I think it was Switzerland, Finland, and Spain where I all saw there was like massive amounts of success in this thing, in these things. But Portland, not so much. Here's the other thing. I think America's probably not as good at implementing systems as some other countries are. Some countries, I think, handle universal health care pretty well. I don't think this country would be any good at it at all. Like, not even close. I think as a matter of fact, I think we would absolutely freaking suck at it. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And so I'm starting to think that this is one of those things that we're just not able to handle as well as some other places around the world, and we're not as good at implementing systems as maybe some other places. Again, some other countries around the world are going to give you more like firmness in when they give you things like this and be like, dude, this is going to happen. Expect this. We're going to see this, but we're going to end this, and this is going to come down, and they're going to give you a little bit more harsh reality. Where America is a little bit more, does the hashtag sound good? Okay, then we got it, and we did a bang-up job. Hashtag sounds good. We're good, right? And like that's kind of what happens with us. They say nearly 70,000 people in the U.S. died of drug overdoses that involved fentanyl back in 2021. Almost a four-fold increase over the previous 5 years. That according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So, you know what I mean? Not just like significantly more likely to be involved in deadly overdose than other common drugs, again, according to the CDC. Experts are also of major cities like Portland and San Francisco, and you see the drug use on the street, I can understand why people are like, what the hell have we done here? I really did. Look, this is just one of those things I was kind of wrong on. I thought America would be able to handle this the way we've seen other countries handle it. We can't. We are the excess nation. Like that's who we are. Give it to me. We are the all-you-can-eat buffet nation. We're the it's my right. I worked hard. Give me this. That's who we are. And so it's not necessarily surprising we're seeing this. I was willing to take a look at some other options because Just Say No had been a failure since her ass got on TV and said it.
And you know what that conniving trickery is called?
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
New from Billy Joel there. Turn the lights back on. So when I was done with the program yesterday, looking ahead at today, I walked down the hallway and said to somebody, am I supposed to be playing the new Billy Joel in the middle of the Power Hour tomorrow? Is that like a thing? Is that like, am I supposed to be doing that? Is that like a thing? They're like, yeah, that's a thing there. New Billy Joel, Turn the Lights Back On. I think it's his first song in like 20-something years or something. He's an all-timer, and I love Billy. I got lucky enough once to see he and Elton John on the same night at what was then the Cube at Rocket Mortgage, right? And they were fantastic. They were both great. Billy's one of those guys, if you've never seen him go, it's amazing. But, you know, he announced that tour. He's coming with Rod Stewart, and you had to, figure something new may be coming. Remember, I was like, geez, dude, like, I like Billy Joel, and I like Rod Stewart. all the way back to the bases. Give me Rod Stewart. I'm all in. But I felt like Cleveland Brown Stadium really was a little big, right? A little lofty there. And we were just talking about this kind of stuff the other day. That, you know, when somebody's going to hit the road, they normally, you know, here's a new one, right? Here's a new song. Now, that's not what you're going to the show for. You know, you're going to hear Tell Her About It. You know what I mean? An Uptown Girl. That's what you're looking for. Allentown. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for Turn the Lights Back on. But it's a way to increase some interest. Oh, my God, here's a new Billy Joel song. And that is one of those things we call a corporate cram down. That was kind of one of those. Yeah, we know it doesn't make sense. You're playing it. I was like, okay, all right, fair enough. 90-day state of emergency now over fentanyl issues in their city. Now, I know most people are going to say, well, duh, after you decriminalized back in 2020, what you think was going to happen? And sure enough, their overdose deaths rose from 280 in 2019 before they passed the measure to decriminalize to now it was 956 in 2022. That's a large jump, right? And people really wanted me to defend myself here, as I've kind of called over the years for for a different approach to drugs. You know, leave this part out a lot. That it's like I have been interested. It's like legalize them, let's see what happens, right? Kind of one of those things. And I was talking about how there are other places around the world that have done this, Spain being one of them, where they kind of legalized drugs and they saw overdose deaths come down. They saw crime come down. They saw homelessness come down. They saw a lot of things come down, actually. And we've seen that around in some other countries as well. As a matter of fact, Nicholas reminding me of this. He's like, dude, don't leave Portugal out. He's like, you know, did with it is they also increased drug treatment centers versus just throwing people back in jail, right? And that kind of thing. They not only did they decriminalize, but they increased their efforts for drug rehabilitation. You know what I mean? And that's something Portland may have not done a great job at. You know, and I've said I think there are other countries that are going to handle some things better than we will. We've seen this with alcohol use of young people. You know, there are a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I had an Uber driver here just about a month or two ago. She was clearly not from the area. And we were talking about she had a kid in college. And for some reason, I wanted to extend the conversation. So I was telling her about Jen's daughter in college and, you know, this whole thing. And she was like, you Americans got a weird, thing with college kids and booze. And I was like, we do? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, going to college, welcome to beer, it's kind of part of it. So I was kind of on the edge of the seat. I was like, I wonder where this is going to go, right? And so the lady just started this, don't put your hand in the cookie jar. Don't put your hand in the cookie jar. Don't put the hand in the cookie jar. Hey, man, here's your new idea, 21. Welcome to the cookie jar, bitch. People have this theory that you actually learn how to handle things at an earlier age. Now, it sounds absolutely crazy, but yeah, just hop on the John Deere with Pops today, start guzzling down Busch Lights, right? Like, that seems a little crazy. In the desert of California, they say it's all over dispensary robberies and theft and the like, and a guy who runs, like, I think it was called the Northern California Marijuana Initiative. There's the end of black market. Too many people say about absolutely nothing so everybody can make themselves feel better about what the hell they're doing. The dispensary is, I pull into the parking lot, here's my car, shut up, I don't care about it, right? Put it in the bag, and now I'm out at that. But Portland does have a problem on their hands here with fentanyl. The country has a problem with fentanyl. I'm hearing a lot of, and again, this is coming into the text line 330-450-7625, close the border. You're not wrong. I don't think that's going to end the problem tomorrow, but it would take a large bite out of it. We know, we've known forever. This is not a new thing. We've turned it into a new political thing, but it isn't really. We've known forever that drugs flow over the borders of this country, both northern and southern. We know that. We absolutely know that. So yeah, a stronger border policy is going to be a good idea about cutting down on fentanyl trafficking in this country. I don't know what else you want us to do, though, right? Weren't we literally just told the other day they've done everything they can? Sorry, man, I can't even finish the sentence. That's how crazy it is.
He's a man of many talents, but he does not have the talent for keeping quiet.
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
9:45 this morning. Let's send you to Rob Zombie. That show's got Alice Cooper on it as well. Ministry and Filter, too. That'd be a good night out of Blossom. Rob puts on a hell of a show, man. Now, he is having some band change-ups right now. I think John 5 officially now out forever as he's taken the Motley Crue gig, so he's out. And I believe Rob's longtime bass player has just left the band this last week, too. I don't know what the hell's going on there. But you're not going to see the bass player, and you damn sure weren't going to see John 5. You were there to see Rob Zombie, right? Yeah, so he'll be there. That's August, and we'll get you in at 9:45 this morning. I am hesitant to mention this name, Taylor Swift. I do believe people have reached the saturation point with her. A lot of people have, right? I don't think, by the way, people are as annoyed about seeing her on the screen as it maybe comes off when they type it. I don't think people are pissed. I think they're just kind of annoyed with it, right? It's like, here we go again with this thing, right? I think that's more it. Now, are there some just sad, lonely dudes who haven't sniffed happiness in a decade, and they just see her smiling, loving life, being rich, having hits, dating a star, having fun, getting the attention they wish they could get, and just kind of hate her for that? Yes, those people exist too. For sure they do. I saw this yesterday, and at first, when I read it, I thought he was nuts. But then I sat around and thought about it. I was like, is he crazy? He might not be. The former president. But he may be bigger. It's not that crazy to say. When you were growing up, there was pretty much nobody bigger than the president of this country. We've gone even further into the idol worship of celebrities than we were even when I was a kid. It's gotten, I think, that much worse. So it's kind of, presidents have kind of been overtaken over the last little bit. Although Obama, I mean, come on. He could rival her fame, I think, maybe. So is it necessarily crazy to think that Trump could be bigger than Taylor? I'm not so sure it is. You ever watch that guy walk into a college football game? They go bonkers. I mean, they go crazy for him. You ever see him walk into a UFC fight? Now I know, the dirt foot, mouth breathing UFC fans. If that's who you think is sitting within the first 3 rows at a UFC fight, the dirt foot deplorable, really? It isn't. It isn't. Because Taylor, this is true about Taylor Swift. Every guy who wishes I was talking about anything else in the world but her right now, if they saw her in Applebee's today, would run right up to her and want to take a photo.